Hello everyone, my name is Chris and welcome back to the Casual Gamer. Today we're going to go over my thoughts on Spider-Man 2 for PS5 and wow, what a treat I have to say. Spider-Man 2 has been a real blast to play through, but before we really talk about it, I want you to know this will be mostly spoiler free. I say mostly because some things I know may slip through, or maybe something I show you would consider a spoiler. However, the footage you see is all from the first few hours of the game, and most of it will be open world stuff or combat related, as to again try to avoid some of those bigger spoilers. Okay, I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet as to give you guys my thoughts without digging too much into the spoilers, so without further ado, let's get this started. Now, this game looks absolutely stunning. It's definitely a step up from the previous game. And even though it's not a huge difference, you can definitely tell that this is more enhanced for the PS5 specifically. The game offers a fidelity mode, which, as I'm sure many of you are aware, is your standard 30 FPS mode that has all of the graphical enhancements, ray tracing, and all of that stuff. Now, if you have a monitor or a TV that supports 120Hz display mode, you can boost that to 40 FPS for a more smooth experience, which is how I played through the game. Then you have a performance mode that loses some of the quality you get in fidelity mode, but you can play it at least in 60 FPS. There's not a performance ray tracing mode like in the last games, as ray tracing is going to be included in all of those modes. Now, there are other settings you can tinker with, but that's the biggest thing for most people, so I just wanted to let you guys know of that. Now, I didn't really have an issue with performance in this game, which is fantastic. There were some clipping, and in the late game, Miles ended up falling through the floor on the sidewalk a bit and just kind of started walking halfway underground, but that was about it. I did have about 3 instances where I had to reload checkpoints because button prompts would not appear or work correctly, so hopefully that gets patched out soon. But other than that, the game ran really great, and to be honest, I hope this eventually hits PC because I can't wait to play this on my RTX 4090. Spider-Man 2, I will say up front, has a fantastic story. If you were planning on picking up this game for its story, I don't think you're going to be disappointed here. Now, I won't talk too much about the story because, again, spoilers, but I played this for 2 days straight because I just wanted to see what happens next, and it's been a while since I've had a game story do that. I'm a little biased, just a little bit, as I'm a big comic book fan, and Spider-Man's one of my favorite superheroes, but even if you're not that big of a fan, I think you're going to enjoy the story here and is definitely worth playing. The story obviously takes place after the events of the previous games, and Peter and Miles have pretty much been tag teaming it with saving the city. In this game, you're going to take control of both as you progress through the story. Main missions will have you play as a certain designated character, and even some side content's going to require you to play as either Miles or Peter, which for some can be a little disappointing if you were hoping to do everything as one or the other, especially in the side content. But even though you have some that are specific to one character, there's still a lot to do, and you will get plenty of time with the character that you like. Now, when you do switch characters, the game transitions pretty seamlessly when switching characters. It'll kind of jump quickly to black sometimes, and then you'll pop up as your other character in some other part of the city, and it happens very quick. So that's really nice. So don't expect long loading times when you have to switch between characters. It happens fairly quickly. Now, and the story itself took me just about 15 hours to complete, and I pretty much just straight shot at the main story and only veered off a little when I had to in between main missions and to get the occasional collectible that I ran by. There are some things with the story that can be a little slow, mostly in the early parts where you kind of just walk around as Peter, and those parts can drag a little bit, but thankfully there's not a lot of them. There are still the MJ missions where you'll break away from playing as the Spider-Man, but I think those sequences were handled a lot better here than the previous title, and it didn't feel like such a drag that I thought they felt like in the last game. And there were some really pleasant surprises in this story that honestly had me jump out of my chair at times, just in pure excitement of what I was seeing. And there were some things that honestly had me a little bit curious and a little bit worried for the next title, but I'm not going to talk about too much of those things here, as that kind of gets a little bit into the spoiler territory. Both Miles and Peter have their own story arcs that are intertwined really well, and you really see how both of these characters overcome their own specific and unique challenges in and out of the suit. And I think Insomniac did a really good job at just making you feel for both of these characters. Even though their time is divided, you still feel like you're getting a good story with both of those characters here. And I'll mention too, I don't have the exact number, but from what I remember with this story, you do play as Peter Parker through most of the story, I would say. If I could put a number on the top of my head, it felt like I was playing about 60-40 between the two characters, which as a Peter Parker fan, I like to see that. It was nice to play more of Peter Parker, and that's in the side content who usually I go to and play as the original Spider-Man. But that's just kind of a little heads up as far as what it's going to be like in dividing your time between the two. I should also mention too, like the last game, once you beat the story, you're going to have the option to, again, replay the game, kind of, a new game plus, so to speak, with a higher difficulty. So for those of you that like to replay the story on higher difficulties, or just like to relive those events with maybe suits that you unlocked later, you have that opportunity here in this game as well. So let's talk about some other features of the game. World traversal still feels amazing, and yes, you feel like Spider-Man. Web slinging feels great, and you can even tinker with some of the settings to lose some of the assists that help with it, and even allow fall damage, which I found really interesting. I didn't really choose that option, but I know there are plenty of videos out there showcasing that you can kind of see crazy things of people swinging without the assist and falling and hitting cars and dying, which I thought was kind of hilarious. But just know the options are there if you decide to tinker with that. Along with your normal web swinging, you can also glide across the city using Spider-Man's wingsuit. It's a nice addition and allows you to traverse with a bit more speed and across the more open areas a bit better. I will say sometimes the controls on the wingsuit during some missions can be a bit weird, but nothing too terrible. Mostly just, I had a little bit of trouble steering sometimes and ended up hitting obstacles and having to get back on course. But it was just a minor complaint, and I got used to it pretty quick. There are also currents you can hit across the city that help you get going much faster in the wingsuit, which is a lot of fun, and you'll go pretty fast. So sometimes you have an objective, a mission all the way across the city, and you get there pretty quick, especially when using these currents. So that's a nice feature. It definitely helps with world traversal, and I never fast traveled my entire time of playing. It was too much fun swinging and gliding across the city that you could not even have fast travel, and it wouldn't bother me at all in this game. And on top of that as well, almost forgot to mention, you even have abilities that you can unlock to even further enhance your travel. The ones I use the most, where there's one that kind of launches you up in the air to get a little more height, and another that boosts you forward for a little bit of burst of speed, which again adds to that traversal, the ease of traversal in this game, which is a nice touch to have, and it's always nice to be able to get around places more efficiently. Speaking of unlocking things, Peter and Miles both have a unique skill tree and also share another distinct tree. The personal trees are not super in depth, and they mostly enhance the particular unique skills of those characters, while the shared tree has the more standard of what you're used to in the previous games that have more traversal elements and techniques that are used by both of the characters. You can also unlock and upgrade about 5 different gadgets that, to be honest, I didn't really tinker with through my time through this main story. So I don't really have too much to speak on that, but you kind of get the standard little upgrades to help improve how many you can use and things like that. And then you have upgrades called Suit Tech that enhances your health and your damage, focus, and traversal again. All these upgrades cost tech parts and tokens that you find by playing the story, searching the open world, and completing the signed content in the game. Again, if you played the previous games, it works pretty much the exact same way as those games did. Speaking of suits, there are a lot of suits here between Miles and Peter, and after completing the main story, I still have only unlocked about 60%. So there are still a fair amount of suits to collect, I assume through hidden challenges and collectibles and doing the more completionist content of the game to help you unlock those other suits. Now, I'll be honest, some of the suits are amazing, while others I didn't really jive with very well, and maybe it's just me, but I thought a lot of the Miles suits were not nearly as nice as Peter Parker's. However, that's obviously a personal opinion, and I think a lot of you are going to find a suit that you like, or many suits that you like, to fit, your style or your personal preference for Spider-Man. Some suits are standalones, while others come with several other color schemes, which is really nice. I was sitting there looking at a bunch of them, when I first launched the game, and just once you unlock a suit, if it has different color schemes, you can also unlock those as well. I think it'll have about 4 different color schemes with the suits that have them, to add a little more style to those suits without taking up an actual another slot, which is a really nice feature to have. And one thing I really liked, it's a small thing, but I really like that Insomniac's iconic advanced suit, the default suit in the game, is much more colorful here and vibrant, which I found much better than the dulled colors of the last. But that suit is also there too, if you like the more washed out reds and blues of the advanced suit from the first game. Combat in the game is just as amazing as you would expect. I felt there's a lesser reliance on gadgets here and more on the skills. At least that's what I found. Your skills and gadgets are attached to separate inputs by holding either L1 or R1 and pressing the corresponding face button. Minus your standard web shot, just spamming R1 and webbing people up. That's still the same as the previous games. And then, of course, you have kind of your ultimate rage attack by clicking the left and right stick. That does like a powerful move, or powers you up a little bit for a limited time. Now, I had a lot of fun with the skills, by the way, and that's part of the reason why I didn't end up using a whole lot of the gadgets. I kind of used them just while all my skills were on cooldown, but the skills were a lot of fun to mess around with. Peter's mostly revolves around his mechanical spider arms, mostly, while Miles has his venom powers, I believe they're called, that are all about electricity, which is a lot of fun. And if you played Miles Morales, you kind of have an idea of what those skills are. And some of the new abilities that he has were a lot of fun as well. And I'm not a huge Miles guy. I liked Miles Morales, that game, and he's a lot of fun to play here. I'm kind of an OG guy, so I like the Peter Parker, but playing Miles was awesome. And the times that you switch to Miles, you don't feel like you're playing a lesser character. You still feel like you're playing a fun and enjoyable character alongside Peter Parker. It's nice too that when you're fighting together and doing finishers, and sometimes just seemingly at random while you're fighting, both Spider-Men will kind of do a tag team finisher to defeat enemies, which reminds me a lot of the Arkham games. If you played Arkham Knight and you're kind of familiar with the joint takedowns, it works very similar here, and they're just as cinematic and cool as the previous games were. There's not a whole lot more to really say, at least in this video. I mean, if you've played the previous games, then you really know what to expect here with the combat and stealth sections of the game. It runs very similar. So if you enjoyed the previous games, you're going to enjoy it here. If you didn't enjoy the combat in the previous games, I don't think there's anything too different here that's really going to change your opinion on that. The game offers similar side quests and activities like the previous games. There are collectibles to collect, photos to take, crimes to squash, side missions, and enemy bases to take out, so to speak. They're not quite the same as the last games, but the principle is still pretty much the same. The world is a bit bigger, as you now get more of the east side of the city across the bay, so there's a little bit more to explore and collectibles to get, and it makes the traversal a little bit longer, but like I said, with the traversal enhancements, you still feel like you can get around the city pretty quickly. And a nice touch to the world is you'll often find, let's say, Miles on some crime scenes while you're playing Peter, and vice versa. to really help with the feel that there are two Spider-Men swinging around the city. So it's nice to see that you'll run across the other Spider-Man occasionally as you play and do a lot of the side objectives. And if you like to clear things off the map, I think you will have fun with the side activities in this game, but if in the last games you found a lot of the side stuff to be very choresy, I don't think you're going to feel much different here about that stuff. All in all, I think this is a very good Spider-Man game, and in a lot of ways, it may be my favorite Spider-Man game ever. Now, this is not really a spoiler, as it's already been revealed, but I kind of wanted to save it for the end, just in case you're one of those guys who want to stay away from all of the trailers and things like that. So this is your chance to kind of turn away for a few seconds, mute it if you don't want potentially a spoiler, even though it's kind of already been put out there. This is now your chance. Venom is of course in the game, and he looks and sounds amazing. Now, he doesn't really show up until the later half of the game, but when he does, it is fantastic. And with that, the symbiote suit is also such a joy to see and play in, along with the abilities that come with it. So if you're a big fan of Venom, like myself, I think you're going to enjoy it. I'm not going to spoil the who is Venom in this game, but it is different for what you may know in comics. However, there's a lot of similarities as well. So I think Venom was done really well here. And hopefully we may see him in like a side game or a spin-off or something. It would be really fun for Venom to get his own game, and I think Insomniac can do a really good job at doing something unique with Venom, if they decide to go that route or ever have the chance. But I just want to share that little bit here towards the end, just in case you were kind of trying to shy away with that. But yeah, really cool. Really made the last half of the game really interesting and fun, and made me just want to really keep going. And once the story is finished, I was hungry for more. I wanted more of the story, so I'm definitely excited to see where they go forward with the story. However, there are some things that happen in the story that do make me a little bit worried going forward. Just a few things for me personally that I'm kind of hesitant about, and hopefully they don't do certain things in their future games. But again, I'm not going to talk about that here. Maybe I'll talk about that in a different video, that maybe with a little more spoilers and some deeper thoughts about it, but I won't talk about that here. So the question really is, should you get this game? And I have to say, if you liked the previous games, this is a must-buy for you. If you enjoyed playing Spider-Man, enjoyed playing Miles Morales, you're going to enjoy playing this, and I absolutely think it's worth the money. If you didn't play the previous games, you don't really need to enjoy this one, but I definitely recommend going to play those, as you'll get a more complete experience. And although the main story is a bit short, I think a lot of you guys are going to spend a lot more hours in the world and doing the side activities and just being Spider-Man, that you're going to put a lot more hours than just the initial 15 hours into the main story. And you'll probably end up playing the game at least a second time through. At least I did for the previous game. So you're probably going to have more hours than just 15 to 20 hours for this game. But anyways, guys, those are just my thoughts on the game. I loved it. I look forward to seeing what they do next. And again, maybe I'll make another video just talking about some of the spoilers and what my concerns are for the next title, but we'll see. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Have you had a chance to play it yet? Did this video help you at all make a decision? Maybe you're like me and you saw Spider-Man and you were going to play it anyways, no matter what. Let me know. So thanks for watching, guys. Always a pleasure. Don't forget to drop a like in the video if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time.